Okay, guys, now for our next part, let's have some speaking. Can you all please go to page 45 of your book? 45. You should find there, guys, some guidelines on how to respond to certain kinds of questions in the test. Now, the reason why we'd like us all to know about how to respond is because in the end, besides just the answers you give, it's also quite important for us to know how to organize our answers from start to finish. If you may recall, the most important criterion in the speaking test is actually not your grammar nor your pronunciation, but actually your fluency, which means you need to be able to speak straight with ease, and also at the same time you have to be responsive to the answers or to the questions given to you. Therefore, tonight I'd like to share with you guys at least 4 different kinds of speech functions to add to what we have learned so far and talk about some tips one after another. Okay, let's start with the first speech function, enumerating the advantages and the disadvantages. Take a look at the examples found just below the title there. Sample questions are, what are the advantages and the disadvantages of intensive training for young sports people? What are the disadvantages of making friends easily? Now, the way we respond to this kind of question, guys, is to simply just come up with a general statement and then cite the pros and the cons one after another. Now, one of the main issues I notice when students respond to this kind of question is that when they're asked to talk about what are the advantages, they almost always give just one advantage. Therefore, fail to respond because they did not give at least 2. So watch out therefore, because the examiner always makes it clear what the question is. So if you're asked for what are the advantages, then supposedly you should give out at least 2 good things. In the same manner, if you're asked what are the disadvantages, 2 bad things also, alright? Now, the other tip I'd like to emphasize also is, if possible, try to use other words besides advantage or disadvantage. Take a look at the words found, guys, here on the right of your book. Words like benefit, positive aspect, or good thing, or favorable in lieu of the word advantage. If you have to use the disadvantage, you can always use words like downside, negative aspect, the problems or the drawbacks of something. Okay? Okay, so we'll see you tomorrow, alright? We have tests tomorrow.
I tried tomorrow because my wife again.
Oh, she's under labor again. Okay, alright. Sige, take care. Alright, so that's the case, guys. Take a look at the example here at the bottom of your page 45. What are some of the good and the bad things about intensive training for young sports people? Answer. Exposure to sports can both benefit and harm the young people. On the plus side, these young players easily gain mastery over their chosen sports, since constant exposure will help them develop the right techniques. Another good thing about this is that they become physically active, they develop the stamina they need to win the game. So on the plus side, instead of writing or saying advantages. The downside, though, is that overexposure may mean lesser time for studies, and this isn't good at all. Additionally, students are at risk of sustaining injury. Okay, so 2 things, because the questions are advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so that's how we can do it. Now, let's take a look at the second kind here, comparing and contrasting. Now, let me just mention the common issue here first. No, when students are asked to compare and contrast, what happens normally is they just describe the 2 items one after another and fail to come up with the so-called distinguishing factor. So for instance, when students are asked, how different is it to live in the city and live in the countryside? So that's the question. Now, what happens usually is students just talk about city life first and then countryside life afterwards. So for example, they might say, well, in the city, what happens normally is it's very expensive, and that it's so stressful in cities, and that thirdly, the life in the city can be very, very hurried or fast-paced. But on the countryside, normally what we experience is very less pollution or little pollution, for example, or that people are very friendly. And the third, people are also very healthy because foods are fresh and people can grow their own food. Now the thing is, if we compare in that manner, it won't work really well because in the end, we simply describe both of the items with no comparison as regards the factors thereafter. And so what we should do therefore is think first about in what areas do countryside living and urban living differ. So for example, they differ in terms of what? In what aspects do they differ? Living in the city versus living in the countryside.
Lifestyle.
How would you say lifestyle? Why lifestyle?
The way they wake up.
The way they wake up. How is it like in the
The
city?
time that they awake, they should wake up. In the
How
city,
different
in
is it?
the city, you need to wake up as early as you can. But in the provinces or countrysides,
Mhm.
you
You can wake up late in the morning.
Yes, because the traffic
Okay.
is not congested. You don't have to
So there's no traffic, so that's why people can take their time. Okay, anything else? In what other aspects are countryside living and city living different?
The people
The people,
are around the place.
what about the people?
In the countryside, almost 1 kilometer, or even
Mhm.
in the far far place,
Mhm.
who's living there.
Okay,
While in the in the city,
you're very close to one another.
Even your neighbor, you don't know his name.
Correct. So in other words, the familiarity, the quality of relationships is different because in the city you hardly interact, but in the countryside, it may be the case that you know everybody in your area. Good. Anything else? How the city cost of living? I think we can all agree that city living is a lot more expensive than living in the countryside. Anything else?
Living in the city is easier than in countryside because it's
Okay.
much more laid back.
So it's more laid back. People take their time, whereas people in the city they're hurrying all the time, right? It's fast paced their lifestyle. So there you go, guys. When you compare, therefore, you do it one after another factor. You might say, for example, well, they are different because in terms of cost of living, it's definitely cheaper in the countryside. In terms of the relationships we have with people, I think in the countryside, people are much closer, they interact more than people in the cities do. You guys follow, you guys get that. You think about factors. So for example, guys, let's take a look at this question over here without looking at the sample at the bottom, okay? What are the differences between family parties and parties given by friends? At the top, without reading the sample below. In what aspects do they differ, Ryan? Parties between families and parties from among friends. How did it differ?
Parties from families are most of parties at home or
Okay, they're not at home.
but friends parties basically it's outside.
It's mainly outdoors. Okay, anything else? Family parties and friend parties. How are they different? Yes,
Yes, in
Jack.
a family, it's a formal party.
It's a
Yes,
formal
yes,
party.
It's a formal between you, between the family.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes, in the family party,
Uh-huh.
all the family get together.
Okay.
And then in the friends
Mhm.
party, it's different, you party outside,
Mm-hmm.
you have a freedom. You have a freedom, you can, whatever you want, you can,
So you mean to say like people behave in formal parties like in families,
Yes, yes,
whereas
yes,
in
yes.
informal parties like with friends,
yeah, it's different, your real attitude will come out because you have a,
you can be yourself.
yeah.
You can be yourself in friends parties. Do you guys agree with that? Yes, I tend to agree. How about you, Alicia? How different are parties with families and parties with friends?
Oh, the family cannot loudly, cannot, very open.
You can be very open, yeah. You cannot talk about anything. Yes. But with friends, you can.
Yeah, you
Can do
be
everything.
much
Yeah,
effort.
yeah. Because sometimes you feel like you have to be very careful about what you say,
Yeah.
about how you behave.
Yeah, because have all the burden.
Sure, they might give you like the stern
Children.
look. And you don't want that. But with friends, you can be very
Yeah.
open. Yeah. So there you go, guys. You think about some factors. Okay, another example. How different is it to watch a movie in the home versus watching it in the cinema? How different are they?
The sounds and then the size.
Well, yeah, the obvious difference is the size.
Yes.
But more than that, what do you think is the main difference?
The difference is you'll be watching a movie with others.
With others,
Yeah.
with a lot more people, of
Yeah.
course. Of course, you
Then
can
at
watch a movie
home.
with somebody else, right?
Then at home, you can just like pause the movie and
Okay.
do that.
Meaning you can do many things when watching movie at home, like play and pause the video,
Yeah.
whereas you cannot do that in the movie house. What else can we not do in the movie house that we can do at home?
No, sometimes boring.
Sleeping.
Sleeping. Well, you can sleep in the movie house.
Yes.
But you cannot watch again after the movie finish.
But you missed the movie. Yes.
At
Anything
home
else?
is boring. You know,
At home is
if you're
boring.
going to the cinema,
Mhm.
there's more excitement with someone.
Okay.
No one will be, you know that?
So in other words, it's more exciting in the movie
Yeah, more
house
exciting.
because
With
maybe
someone.
with someone.
Yeah, with
Okay.
someone. Because it's boring, so you're by
only
yourself.
alone. But you can also watch a movie at home with somebody else.
But it's different. It's a big difference, you know, at home and the cinema.
Mhm.
The cinema, you know, the impact of the sound is different. You know,
Okay,
the
there you
crowd
go.
is bigger.
So in other words, the experience
Yeah,
is
the
different. Okay, there you go, guys. So again, use those factors when describing and comparing both. All right. Okay, guys. Let's take a look at page 47 this time. And this time, let's talk about how to express your view. For example, if you're asked to agree or disagree with a particular statement, almost always what we do is we say, I agree or I disagree. However, the tip I'd like to share with you here, guys, is to come up with nicer phrases that not many speakers use. For example, if you want to say you agree, take a look at those words found here on the right. No, on the left, I mean, your left over here. And on the right side, under I strongly agree. Notice we could say, I think that's absolutely true. I totally agree, without a doubt, or by all means, that's correct. Okay, we hardly ever say these words, but these are some phrases that your examiners might be very impressed with. Okay, so use them. Now, if you don't think of it at all as agreeable, then you say, I don't believe that at all. Or, I think the idea is incorrect. Or, I don't see it that way. Or, by no means do I think of it that way. Now, when you want to say, in my opinion, all the time, if you do that, it becomes too monotonous. That's why instead of, in my opinion, how about guys use the following phrases over here? Like, to my mind. Or, personally, I think. Or, I suppose. Or, from my point of view. That's a good phrase there. It seems to me a disagreeable or an agreeable statement. Or, my impression is that it's actually wrong. Or, as far as I am concerned, it's a very nice one here. Not many students use this phrase here, so try using it later during our practice speaking, alright? So, as far as I am concerned, I would agree, or I would disagree, okay? Now, of course, right after that expression, you have to explain why you believe so. Let's give it a try. Let me ask you a couple of questions, guys, okay? Do you agree or disagree that the present is more important than the past? Chat. The present is more important than the past. Do you agree or disagree? Okay, use the phrases here.
I personally, I think that
Okay.
the present is more important.
Okay, that's a good start. And then from there, you begin explaining. All right, here's another question. I'd like you to respond to this, Sir Ellie. Here's the question. Do you think that education is important?
To my mind, I think the education is important.
Okay, good. So to my mind, I think that education is important. All right. Now, Ronald, do you think that war is the answer to our global problems? Global problems. Yeah. Do you think that war?
I think that idea is correct.
Okay, and then from there you begin explaining why. Good. Okay, how about you, Ryan? Here's your question. Is it important for us to save the environment?
I think that's absolutely true.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Good. See? See, this sounds good. Okay, how about you, Ram? Here's your question. Do you think that we should invest in human resources?
In my point of view, we should.
Yeah,
Invest for
sure.
them.
We should invest in human resource. Okay, Alicia, here's your question. Do you agree or disagree that, for example, in relationships, it is important to make compromises?
To my mind, yeah, of course, is important
To make
to make
compromises.
compromises.
You know what compromises are? To compromise means to give in so that the other can do what he wants to do or what she wants to do. So for example, if you wanna go and eat some pizza and your Italian husband wants to eat some spaghetti or pasta, to keep the relationship going, you compromise. Yeah, something like that, give and take. So at one point you would give in, then maybe in another point he would give in to whatever you want. All right, Ed, here's your question. Do you think that we should spend a lot on conserving animals?
Personally, I think that what's the question, sir?
Okay, should we spend a lot on conserving animals? I didn't see that coming, but yeah, should we spend a lot on conserving animals?
Personally, I think we should spend a lot of conserving animals.
We should spend a lot on conserving animals. Good. Efren, here's your question. Do you think that we can actually reverse global warming?
In my point of view, I believe we can.
We can
We
reverse,
can reverse.
or we can change the course of things as regards global warming. Okay, there you go, guys. All right, so use it later during your drill. Down below is some example, but basically what you do after the statements you've given is to explain why you believe so. Okay? Now, let's take a look at, guys, the last one. Speculating about the future. Speculate. To speculate, guys, means to make a guess. Because there's nothing certain about the future, anything can happen. That's why, guys, when you are asked about the future, just like, take a look at, guys, number 1 at the top. Do you think that all new homes will be equipped with household machines in the future? In some ways, we may think of it that way, but of course, in some other kinds of questions in which you can be unsure, you might want to always begin, guys, with words that express your level of certainty. So for example, you might want to say, take a look, guys, the words over here under helpful expressions. This can be very, very helpful. Take a look at the first set. If you are very certain, you can say, I think there is a strong possibility that machines will be dominating our homes in the future. Or there is no question in my mind that our homes will be technology driven. There's every chance that our homes in the future will be all run by machines. Okay, so these are very nice phrases. Words like, I can say without a doubt that, I can say most definitely that, or I'm utterly convinced that. These are very good phrases. Now, if you are a little sure that it won't happen, take a look at the ones at the bottom. For instance, I'm not really sure if that's going to happen. For example, the question is, do you think that our newspapers will become obsolete in the future and perhaps be replaced by electronic newspapers? You might want to say, I think it is debatable whether that's going to happen, or no one can predict whether newspapers will indeed become obsolete, or it is impossible to say if our e-newspapers will be a thing in the future and replace our paper newspaper. Okay, so that's how it's like. And then guys, from there you explain again. Can we give it a try? Let me ask you, Ryan. 10-20 years from now, will people be more or less healthy than they are now?
I think it is debatable, whatever.
It is debatable whether.
Whether, sorry,
Mhm.
because
Okay, you say I need to know whether that will happen. Mhm.
okay, I'll change.
Go ahead.
I'm
So-
not really sure if 10 or 20 years from now, people will get
More or
unhealthy.
less.
Unhealthy.
Well, you have to choose actually more or less
Less.
healthy.
Less healthy.
So you say that people will be
Less
less healthy.
healthy.
Or you could say, if you think of it that way, then how about you choose the ones at the top? But there's a strong possibility that people will be less healthy. Because you feel that it's going to be more, it will not happen, that they will be healthier. So therefore, you can say that. It is debatable whether they will be healthier than they are at the moment. Okay, now how about you, Ram? Can you give it a try? Do you think that in the future, driverless cars will be a common thing?
Yeah, there is a strong possibility that driverless cars will be more popular.
More popular in the future. Okay, good. How about you, Jack? In the future, do you think that our homes will be run by robots?
It's impossible to say the home could be a robot because no one could be predict, in the future could be, electronics, the home. The home is still built by concrete.
No. I'm not saying that the robot will be the
No.
home itself.
No.
I'm saying whether our homes will be run by robots. Run
That's what
by
I'm saying.
robots.
Yeah, it's impossible to say.
So you don't think that robots will run our homes?
Yeah, we not run the home.
Okay.
Because machine could be, it can't 100%.
They cannot 100% what?
Yeah, if they could be run the robot, the home could be run to the robot.
Mm-hmm.
In not sure the 100% to be perfect,
Oh, did you mean that
That's why you-
building the homes?
Yeah.
No, I didn't
No, I
mean building the
No,
homes,
not
but
building a home. Could be you say the run by the robot.
yes, run meaning operated,
Yeah, that's
handled,
what I'm saying.
controlled.
Yes,
Mhm.
it is impossible to be operated by the robot.
Why?
This is, you say it's impossible,
Because it's just impossible.
It's impossible to run
Okay.
the robot.
Or maybe you can say that we still need some humans to control the robots, right? So therefore, it's impossible that in the future it will be run only by robots. Okay. How about you, Efren? Let me ask you this question: do you think in the future our paper books will disappear?
Paper books.
Mm. Will they disappear?
I'm not sure if it will really happen,
Mm-hmm.
that the book will disappear in the future.
Okay.
Because even
Why?
now, it's still popular.
Okay.
And
Okay.
there are some people are still looking for it.
So you don't think that
Maybe we still-
paper books will disappear? All
I
right.
don't think so.
Good. How about you, Edwin? In the future, will we be using flying cars?
I'm not really sure if in the future we are using
We will be.
we will be using flying
Okay. Why? Why don't you think so? It's gonna happen.
because there is no companies that doing
Well, as of yet, there are none. But maybe say 10, 20 generations from now, there could be somebody because again, it's a possibility, right? But okay, I respect that. So you don't think it's gonna happen. Okay, how about you, Record? 5, 10 years from now, do you think that countries will no longer require visas for people to get into different countries?
It has to be the potential to maybe 5 to 10 years from now. Some countries will not require to take some visa.
Will not require visas. You can say, if you use this phrase, you can say, I think it has the potential to happen. I think there is a potential that countries will no longer require visas. Because at the moment, more and more countries are actually relaxing these visa requirements. But not New Zealand, I suppose. It's going to be a different thing in New Zealand.
They're more getting harder.
It's getting tougher and tougher here. Okay, Alicia, how about you? In the future, do you think that women will be more powerful than men?
It is impossible to say. I think no.
You don't think so? All
I
right.
don't think so. Yeah.
Why? Why do you
Because,
say so?
In my mind, is the woman is weaker than the man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Weaker, you mean to say?
Weak, yeah.
Weaker physically, you mean to say?
Healthy.
Okay, all right.
The man more stronger than the woman. Yeah.
Okay, but how about mentally, emotionally?
Mentally, yeah, the woman
Are
maybe,
stronger?
maybe is stronger than men.
Yeah.
Can maybe.
And maybe emotionally
Some
stronger
people, yeah, some
than
people,
the
yeah,
men.
some women, yeah.
Yes. Coming from a very Chinese culture, I would expect that you would say no. Because in China's culture, it's a very patriarchal society. The men are usually up there, right? Exactly. And the women are like down there, right?
Yeah.
But how about you, Chad? Do you feel the same way? Do you feel the same way about the question that in the future, women will become more powerful than men?
And I
Should be.
I
Yeah.
I think that there's a chance that women can become
Become more powerful. Yeah, that's a good phrase. There's a chance that women can become more powerful than men. Okay, let me ask Ronald. What do you think, Ronald? About the same question. Do you think in the future women will be more powerful than men?
I think not in the future, at the present.
It's happening
Because we have
Hey, Ron, wait.
because we have a lot of lady president.
Yeah, lady leaders, women leaders, yes. We have lots of them already, correct?
The leader in the United Nations is
It's a woman.
lady also.
It's a woman, yes.
So-
Okay.
In terms of not in physical
Mhm.
but in mental, I think woman is not much,
Mhm.
but I think it's equal.
They're equal with men. Okay. Yeah.
In my concept, is a woman, the Kiwi woman more stronger than the man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Kiwi woman, so all is the short hair one. All the cut short hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
They go.
Yeah, the
They-
small woman.
They're like boys, right?
I don't know why. All the cut.
You know what? You know what? Now that you said that, you are right. I did notice that many of the women who work in Pack and Save actually have short hair.
Short hair and very strong.
I did notice that.
Yeah, so
They're at Morehouse. You're absolutely correct.
yeah, we don't know why.
Okay.
Yeah, I have many friends, Indian friend, Philippine friend,
Mhm.
always talk the same question.
Mhm.
The clerk lady, all is very strong one.
Okay.
Yeah, but all the hair is thin.
Physically strong or what?
Yeah.
like a very strong, stern leader. In other words,
Yeah.
everybody listens to her. Strong personality.
And the haircut is a short one.
Is always very
don't
short.
know why.
So in other words, you feel the way because you have long hair. Is that the case?
Yeah, long hair. Yeah.
Okay, good observation, Alicia. Okay, guys, so the key here, guys, if you notice, in all of the speech functions I've shared with you, the key is using good expressions. Using good expressions. Now, I'd like us to give this a try, okay? I have here, guys, this piece of paper, and I'd like you to speak with a pair. So, Alicia and Cha, you are the default pair. Okay, Edwin and Efren, you will be pairs. So all the other gentlemen, whoever is in front of you will be your partner. That means Ryan, Jack, Ron, Wrecker, and Eliseo together. All right. Now here's what's gonna happen. I have here, guys, in the sheet of paper, two sides. There's a set 1. There's a set 2 at the bottom, and these two sets have different questions altogether. Now I'd like you to cut this into 2 like this. And you have to assign or to hand out each half depending on who is 1 or who is number 2. So can you now please decide who is going to be student 1, who is going to be student number 2. Go ahead. Doesn't really matter. Okay. So you're all 1. You're 1 and 2. Okay. So let me now hand over the paper. Now don't share to each other the questions because the ones you have, you're going to ask your partner, all right? So Wrecker and Ran, okay. Ronald, Wrecker and Ellie. Go. Let's do Alicia and Cha. Okay, so can you now please cut them into half? Now, whoever holds set 1 will be the first to ask questions. Therefore, student number 2 will first answer everything. Now, here's what's gonna happen. I'd like you guys to switch turns. Okay? So whoever is 1 will ask all the 4 questions, one after another. The pair will answer them one after another also. But after the 4th question, student number 2 now will ask his or her questions based on his or her list, and student number 1 now will do the exact same thing. So this is going to be 2 rounds each because there are 2 sets over here. So which means since Ryan here is set number 2, once he's done asking question number 4 and Jack now finishes his answer, he now asks the questions under set B and do the same thing one after another all together. Hello guys, is everything clear? Okay, so again, just one set at a time and then you switch turns. I'll give you guys about 10 to 12 minutes on this particular drill and your 10 to 12 minutes starts now. You are first. No. You have a different question there. So listen to this question.
What do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of listening to live music?
Please say, it's what I mean. It's the first one. Yeah, you answer first his question.
Listening live music are the advantages and disadvantages of
What do you think are the advantages and disadvantages of listening to live music?
are the advantages
Live
and
music.
disadvantages
What is the advantage?
obviously,
or program that
music
is a positive.
advantages.
So the advantages of using live music. You can sing together.